podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Triangulation, the return, episode 428, recorded May 21st, 2021. Andy Weir, Project Hail Mary. It's time for Triangulation. Well, kind of. It's a TWiT event feed, but we're putting on a Triangulation. We've brought the old lady back because there's no way in the world I'm not going to interview this guy when he's got a new book. We interviewed Andy Weir when The Martian came out. Before the movie even. We interviewed Andy Weir when Artemis came out. He's got a new book, and it is a corker. Project Hail Mary. Andy Weir, welcome back to TWiT. It's so great to see you.
It's great to be here. Boy, this really is an era of reboots, isn't it?
Even Doctor Who, my friend.
Even Doctor Who. Well, just behind me there, you'll see a TARDIS.
Oh, look at that. Is that a 3D printed TARDIS, or is that the real thing?
No, it's a toy. It's the real thing. It's actually the TARDIS.
It does look bigger on the inside, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's true. It's a toy.
A toy TARDIS.
I just bought it. It's not like I didn't make it.
And a picture of the red planet above it.
I do have a Doctor Who chess set that I was sent by the UK publisher.
That's cool. Are the pawns all Daleks?
They are actually. There's two sides, white and blue. The white pawns are all Daleks, and the blue pawns are all canines.
Nice.
Everybody on the blue side are good guys, and everybody on the white side are bad guys.
I figured that part out.
yeah. But not just that, but like all the pieces are like the blue rooks are sonic screwdrivers.
Oh, how cool!
Yeah,
that's fun. So, we're going to tell you some ground rules right now. Because the only reason Andy would even deign to talk to me is because he has a book to sell, and we want to sell a lot of copies. So obviously, while many of you have already read the book and are dying to ask questions about the book, one hopes most of you haven't. There's a couple of options here. We could just stop, wait, and you could read the book. In fact,
let's just give him a minute.
That might be my suggestion. And by the way, if you haven't read The Martian and Artemis yet, you might as well get all three. We'll see you in a couple of days.
Yeah.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the first half spoiler-free. Because this, of all the books you've written, I was looking back at the interviews we've done before, and we talked a lot about the contents of the book because it didn't really hurt it. But of all the books you've written, this one you really want to go into cold. In fact, I would suggest don't read the thumbnail description, don't read the back of the book, don't read anything. Don't even
lock
read
yourself in a cave.
Don't even read the log roll plug quotes. Nothing. This is such a great book to start from zero, and follow along with the character. The only thing I'm going to say is the name of the character. I think I could say that.
Sure.
You had Mark Watney in the first book, Jazz Bashara in the second book. A woman, a great character.
Indeed, a female woman.
The only reason I want to mention this is because his name is Ryland Grace. It's Project Hail Mary, and for some reason throughout the entire book, you never said Hail Mary full of grace. I don't understand it.
It's just a fun. I knew I was going to name the ship the Hail Mary. And I'm like, okay, what's the name of the main character? And I'm like, Grace.
Obvious, yeah.
I'm keeping it.
All right, that's all. That's all. You shouldn't even use the S word there. Nothing. No spoilers. I don't want anybody to know what it's about. It's not The Martian. It's not on the moon. It's not on Mars. It's not any of that. It is good, of course, because this is what he does. Hard sci-fi with lots of problem solving. It's so much fun. It is, I think it's certainly as good as The Martian, might be better than The Martian. It's just
thank you.
Fantastic.
Always trying to improve.
Man. Now, so here what we're going to do. We're going to, first half of the show, I'm going to be extremely cautious so that you don't hear any details.
Well, the first couple of chapters of stuff, I think it's fine to talk about.
You want to start the book
your
the same way as your protagonist starts the book, with zero knowledge. That's in a way that's a spoiler too.
Yes, you must start the book in the same way the protagonist starts the book, recovering from a coma. So you need to arrange to be in a coma, but that's your problem.
This is good. I hope you're in a coma now, because then you won't have heard anything about this amazing book. Second half, we'll put up a big sign. We'll put some lower thirds up or something that says spoilers, and I cannot emphasize this enough. Don't listen to that part till you've read it. I'm not a big spoiler alert guy. I think it's kind of silly. Not in this case. There is a journey of discovery in this book that is gold.
Oh, thank you.
And you're following the journey of the hero, and it's gold, and it's just wonderful. So some preliminary questions before we get into this. Are you abandoning the Artemis moon base? Is it going to just stay up there all by itself?
Well, I would like to. I have ideas for additional books in Artemis. I mean, my hope when I wrote it was that, hey, maybe this could become like a setting that I have lots of stories that take place in.
Yes.
I had it in mind that I'd write more books, and each book would have a different central character. And so, the first one is about jazz. The second one was, I was imagining like a good sci-fi murder mystery with Rudy, the Mountie, who's kind of the law, and Artemis being the main character. And, I had all these grand plans. But then, certainly Artemis sold well in the grand scheme of things, but it didn't knock my publisher's socks off. So they didn't really want a sequel right away.
Oh, I hate publishers.
Well, I like them.
Random House, we love you. Yeah. You're a wonderful, wonderful company.
Well, they really are. I mean, they do so much publicity and marketing and stuff for me. They go out of their way. I mean, I'm spoiled rotten. I get so much special treatment from them because they're like, it's one of those things like publishers and also Audible. They decide, this author he sells well, so we're going to advertise and market the crap out of his book. And then, of course, then the book sells well. And they're like, hey, see, we were right.
Yeah.
Like,
Shock. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one they should, because this is amazing. And by the way,
thanks.
When we talked about The Martian, I knew that you actually commissioned the audiobook early on your own, which is...
Well, I didn't commission it. I mean...
You got it made.
I got a deal. I mean,
whatever it is, you signed for that before you had a book publisher.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Audible got the exclusive on this again.
Yeah, well, they have a lot of money, and I like that. I like money. And
no
they say,
R.C. Bray, though. Was that your choice or their choice?
Oh, no, not at all. It was their choice. I love Bob. Bob and Audible don't always see eye to eye on things. So.
I was wondering. I figured there was some story.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Here's what I said in my head. He was so good in The Martian. He was Mark Watney. That you don't want him to be Ryland Grace.
Oh, no.
But I got to say, Ray Porter, who reads the Audible book.
Ray Porter is a fantastic narrator, so I've got absolutely no complaints whatsoever.
He gets that. He gets your style.
But just to be clear, I love Bob.
Yeah, I do too.
Bob's the man. So
and before I listened, I thought, that would be nice if R.C. Bray read this. But I think Ray Porter clearly understands the personality and really inhabits it. And also, again, no spoilers, but the audiobook is unique. It's not like the print book in one kind of critical respect.
Yes, there is an aspect of the story. Yeah, it's really hard to talk about.
Don't say anything. No, just...
Okay. But there is something...
We'll save that for the second half.
I will say in a non-spoilerific way, there's an aspect of the story where sound matters a lot.
Yeah.
And so the audiobook, people are like, oh, yeah, we can go to town on this.
Yeah. I'm glad they did. It was really well done.
They did a great... And they put a lot of thought into that. I mean, they went back and forth. They were sending me audio samples. Hey, what do you think of this? How about this? How about this? Getting my feedback and my agent's feedback and stuff. It was cool.
That's really, really cool. And you've optioned or sold this book? Sold
the film rights to MGM.
Soon to be an Amazon company, I hear.
Apparently. And we have Ryan Gosling attached to play the lead.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, it's great. And he has the same initials as the main character, Ryland Grace. So he could maybe bring his cufflinks to set, whatever. And then we have Phil Lord and Chris Miller set to direct. And we had
Chris Miller. Wow,
Listeners.
this is very, very exciting.
And Phil Lord.
And let's not Phil too, whoever he is.
Yeah. What do you mean? Lord and Miller, they're a directing duo. They've never
Lord and Miller, they go together. They're together. They're a team.
Yeah, my God, you get me in trouble.
They did the Lego movie, and I think this is going to be another Lego movie.
Well, it's going to be live action.
I hope so. No, actually, Lego movie was a great movie, but this is
it was, and Into the Spider-Verse also.
Right, which was amazing.
Yep.
Yeah,
they're fantastic directors. They really are.
Yeah. Have they done any live action?
Yes, they did all the 21 Jump Street movies.
Oh, they prefer not to mention those, I think, but okay.
Oh, those are fine. They're good movies. And then also they did Solo until Disney got rid of them and decided instead of making a good movie, we'll get rid of Lord and Miller and then make one that sucks.
So
if they'd kept Lord and Miller, I bet you Solo would have been a good movie.
Is the script done?
No, we have the illustrious and talented Drew Goddard working on the screenplay. He's the same guy who adapted The Martian. So
did a brilliant job.
Awesome. He did. He's fantastic.
And as I remember, he kind of did it on his own, but it was a beautiful, I thought, and perfectly true to the book.
He did a fantastic job, and he was my first pick. I'm like, we got to get Drew if we can. And this time I actually do have a modicum of authority because I'm a producer on the film.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. But I'm trying to sit back and
let so cute. I re-listened to the first interview where it had been, I think it had been optioned or purchased, but you didn't know anything about who was going to do it or anything. Mm-hmm. And you said, well, they're not going to let me. I don't think they're going to let me on the set and stuff like that. And it was so cute. Now you're on the set, man. You're a producer.
Oh yeah, I'm a producer now, man.
Hell yeah.
Well, it was funny because everybody wanted the book. Everyone wanted the rights. So I'm like, okay, well, let's see if I can flex a little. I said, I want gross participation. I want a cut of the actual ticket sales.
Smart.
And I don't want I just want a teeny little taste. Take what you would like. Take what you would like to pay me for this, and then what percentage of the ticket sales do you think that'll be? And that's the percentage I want. I just want to break into the gross participation world.
They're going to do well by you because The Martian was Ridley Scott's highest grossing movie.
Yeah, no, that went well.
Which is okay. And it was nominated for an Oscar. I think they're going to do right by you.
Oh, they did. And so what happened was, like, I told my film agent, okay, well, tell everybody who's thinking about making an offer, tell them I want gross participation. And if everybody says no, then we'll see what happens. And most of the studios said, oh, we don't do gross participation for authors.
Yeah.
And MGM said, like, yeah, we don't do gross participation for authors, but we do for producers. So we'll make you a producer. Yes. How's that sound?
I think they kind of have to do that. Yeah.
That's the kind of lateral thinking I appreciate.
Problem solving. It's all about it. Yeah.
But really, I'm a producer for the purposes of profit sharing. So I do have some authority here and there, but I'm trying to stay out of the way of the actual real producers who know what they're doing and just kind of let them do their jobs.
I can, of course, everybody here has read it already. And we're all talking about it. We can't wait to see it. Actually, it makes sense that Lord and Miller are doing it because they've worked with Ryan Reynolds before, right?
Ryan Gosling. I made that
Reynolds
mistake
is a different guy. They work with.
I made that mistake. Yeah, it's a Canadian Ryan. It's hard to keep track of.
Ryan Gosling is the cute one.
I think they're both adorable. Yeah. But it's funny is I made that mistake. I said Ryan Gosling. I said Ryan Reynolds instead of Ryan Gosling while I was on the phone with Ryan Gosling.
Oh, how embarrassing! But you know what? I bet he gets that all the time.
I was talking to him, and he's excited. Ryan is because for the last several movies he's been in, he's basically been playing characters that are not allowed to emote or act.
Oh, how bad!
Right? Like in Blade Runner, he's like this flat affect, and he's a very good actor, and he hasn't really had an opportunity to act recently. So he's pretty excited because Ryland is fairly emotive and animated and stuff, and he's looking forward to that. And I said, yeah, I bet you're really sick of like these, sad Ryan Reynolds looking out a window.
Whoops.
And then I was like, I mean Ryan Gosling, and he's like, yeah, don't worry, it happens all the time.
I do too. She's totally
it happens all the time.
He seems like a really cool guy, and you know what?
He's a really chill guy.
He's perfect for that character because No spoilers. But towards the end of the book, there's a moment where you actually have this realization about this guy, and there's something in his character, a little character flaw, and I think Ryan Gosling will be perfect.
Oh, he'll nail it. I'm sure he's great. He's a great actor when they let him act. He
was great in La La Land. There's no dancing. He was
great
in this.
in La La Land.
I don't think that's a spoiler to say there. Well, there might be a little dancing.
I don't think there's dancing unless they add it into the movie. There's not really in the book. There's a decent amount of time in Zero G. Do you call that dancing?
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's some athletic movement.
Yep.
It's God, I want to talk about it so much but I don't want to give anything away.
We'll get to these things in the spoiler
Tell me
section.
Tell me about the process of making this, because it has been a while since Artemis.
Well, I got this big pile of buttons here, right?
Yes.
And if you hit these buttons, letters show up. And then if you do them in the right sequence, you get a book.
Wait, show me the keyboard again.
Here it is. Yeah, I know. This is my super professional, like $29 Logitech wired keyboard.
Is the whole thing written on that?
Yeah.
And,
I know. So I'm not a gamer. Video gamers are the guys who have the just absolutely magnificent
Cherry
stuff.
MX switches and all that.
I just want a keyboard that's heavy enough that it won't bounce around when I'm typing on it. Although I do have a special mouse, this weird looking thing.
Oh.
You hold it like this. Yeah. So here's the mouse.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
And I think it's called a handshake mouse, whatever.
Yeah.
It's good for RSI, which I have.
It's the arc mouse. So you use that because your wrist hurts, not from typing, but from mousing.
But from mouse movement, yeah.
Interesting. If you didn't see the earlier interviews with Andy, he's many years as a computer programmer. In an interesting variety of not just World of Warcraft, but also management MDM modules for businesses and a whole bunch of different stuff. Did you get a cold?
I'm allergic to like everything.
Oh,
so it's.
But you have cats.
Well, no, I can't. What I'm allergic to is several different kinds of pollen.
Yeah,
and so in the springtime, I'm just a mess.
Horrible. Yeah. So I'm sorry about that.
I blame you.
It's my fault.
It's your fault.
Did quarantine help writing this?
No. Well, so basically, I finished writing it before COVID struck. I finished the first draft back in January of 2019. So that was, COVID was doing stuff, but it hadn't really escaped Wuhan yet. And
so it was the editing process and the kind of refinement that you did all in quarantine.
Until March. So the real lockdowns, the hardcore stuff didn't happen until I was done with the book.
Yeah. Interesting. So I just imagine, quarantine would be great for a writer.
You'd think that, but it's not.
Okay.
I thought it would be too. I thought okay, I'm done with Hail Mary. It's going to take a long time before it comes out because COVID shut down all the print production and all that stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, but whatever. I can start working on my next book, and whatever.
Lots of free time. Working. Yeah.
And I got like nothing done. And I felt so crappy. I'm like, how did I do this? I just pissed away a year. How did that happen? And then I found out from other writers that I know and talk to, they all had the same problem. I think writers get a lot of inspiration and ideas and motivation from being out and about, like just your interactions with the outside world. And being stuck in the house, you have no new sensory input. It's just everything is something you've seen before. I don't know if that's what it is, but all the writers I know went through a similar slump. And they had the same surprise that I did. They all said, like, I thought being stuck in my house would mean it'd be easier to motivate to write because I got nothing better to do. But no.
You need grist. You need input.
I think so. Yeah. I think, it's like I'll get ideas for characters based on like, a store, a grocery store clerk,
right.
Or based on just some guy with funny clothes I see walking by on the street or whatever. It's like this is where the ideas come from. And if all I'm looking at is stuff I've seen a million times before and various parts of my house, I'm getting no new sensory input, really.
One of our chatters has renamed his character Petrovoscope.
Petrovoscope. Very nice.
No spoilers, but I'm just saying interesting.
I think that individual has read the book.
One of the things that you're great in the book is neologisms. And you've come up with a lot of fun names for various things that needed to be named in the book.
Yep.
Are you good at that?
No, I don't think so. Actually, coming up with names for things is kind of fun. Coming up with names for characters is a pain. That's usually one of my stumbling blocks. Like I sit there and go like, okay, I got to name this character. Ted. I just like, I'm terrible at it.
It's funny because I always know when it's not a great book because you read the name and you go, well, that's made up. Right? Right? So,
the Elf King was so powerful and renowned that his first name alone had 20 apostrophes.
But you do it so that the names just roll off and you go, yeah, that's their name. So
yeah,
you may not be good at it, but you're good at it. Do you go to the phone book?
I actually, what I'll do is I'll go on, I'll say like, okay, where's this person from? Like, what country are they from? Where are they from? And I say, like, what are the top 100 surnames in that country? What are the top 100 first names and stuff like that? You
take a programmer's approach.
Kind of, yeah. Research and...
So one of the cool things about The Martian is it ended up being, and when we talked, it wasn't yet, but I thought, gee, this would be a really good, I said for curriculum for a college physics course. It ended up being a curriculum for high school physics, high school science. Mm-hmm. That must be so cool for you.
It is cool. It is cool. Yeah. There was enough demand that we have a classroom-friendly edition with the swear words dialed back a bit. And hey, if anybody wants to use Project Hail Mary,
no swear words.
I think there's like 2 or 3 swear words in the entire book.
That's it's again, it's I want to. It could be a spoiler, but I'm not going to say it. But it's interesting.
It's not a huge spoiler. It's not a huge spoiler to say that Ryland doesn't swear.
Doesn't like to swear.
Doesn't like to swear.
Nope. And there's a reason, and you'll find out.
When we get to the spoiler section.
When we get to the spoiler section. But one of the things that if people who love The Martian will recognize immediately, and it's true in Artemis, but even more so in The Martian, is what you love to do for yourself is set yourself a thorny problem and then science the heck out of it, which I know you didn't write that line, but that's...
I did not.
No.
Yeah.
But you do science the heck out of things. And
that's true. And that line was in fact written by the illustrious Drew Goddard, who is currently working on the adaptation of Project Hail Mary. So
expect another great line that Andy didn't write in the movie.
That I get credit for. Right? Like,
that everyone's
like, Andy, I love that line. Oh, it's the best part of the book. Oh, yeah. It's like the only good thing in the whole book is that one line. Well done.
The pain.
Oh, the pain.
I was, as I'm reading the book, there's a few things I'm thinking. One is, okay, I can't wait till he says full of grace. Never did. The other one, but I knew you were thinking it. So in a way, that was a great fun
Well, at least like when I was naming him, like I said, I hate coming up with character names. I'm like, Hail Mary, his last name will be Grace. Yeah. And his first name, I think I picked Ryland just because I wanted something a little off the beaten path.
Yeah. Like I want Jack Grace. That's when I would say, this is a novel.
Right. I picked Ryland because I actually knew a guy named Ryland like 30 years ago. And I always thought, that's a very smart guy sounding name. I like that. And so.
Yeah, you did it. You did it. And it works. And he is a hero in a similar mold to Mark Watney, but not, which is kind of interesting.
No, he's
he's smart.
Yeah. So here's my tale of woe when it comes to characters. So I consider my biggest weakness as a writer to be characters. Like, I can make pretty solid plots and I can keep the science accurate and I think I'm good at pacing, et cetera, et cetera. But my biggest weakness is characters. My characters are often kind of two-dimensional. They lack depth. They don't have growth arcs, any stuff like that. Like Mark Watney is super shallow. Like, I mean, people like him, but nobody would call that character depth. All you know about Mark Watney after you've read the entire book, all you know is he's kind of smart, pretty funny, and he doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
That's it. That is literally all you know. Also, his personality doesn't change at all. He doesn't undergo any sort of growth or change.
That's a good point. There's no character arc, is there?
There's no character arc whatsoever.
I never thought of that. You know what?
Nothing.
I didn't miss it.
Yeah, right. But because it was a heavily plot-driven book. Okay, so fine.
Science-driven plot book.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then for Artemis, I thought and also it should be noted, for Mark, what I did was I just took my favorite aspects of my own personality and magnified them.
Interesting.
So
yeah.
I'm kind of smart. Mark's really smart. I'm kind of funny. Mark's really funny. And Mark has none of my flaws, and I have lots of them. But he doesn't have any of those. And so he's the idealized, distilled version of me.
He's Matt Damon.
He's Matt Damon. Then comes Jazz Bashara and Artemis. And for her, I said, all right.
Yeah.
A woman. Yeah.
You threw yourself a big
really
challenge. Yeah.
No, so believe it or not, I mean, Jazz is just another aspect of me.
Okay.
So what I did for Jazz was I was like, all right, I want more character depth, complexity, and a story arc and a growth. So for Jazz, she's 26 years old in the book. And so I said, I'm going to give her all the flaws I had when I was 26.
Ah, I like it.
Like basically, she is theoretically smart, but still makes really bad life decisions.
Right.
She's kind of her own worst enemy. Most of her problems are self-inflicted. And so I gave her those flaws, the flaws that I had. So she's like, you take me, remove all the Mark Watney, and what's left is Jazz. And
so the two of them together make one.
Make
Andy
one
Weir.
me, yeah. Or at least, I mean, hopefully I'm less of a screw up now, but that's what I was, kind of not a super functional human being at 26.
No, who is?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I learned, and also Jazz realizes the error of her ways and stuff throughout the book and becomes a better person. So I'm like,
there's much more of an arc for her, isn't there?
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, we have depth, complexity, nuance, flaws, and a growth arc. Everyone's going to love it. Everyone hated it because they had a really tough time.
We want Mark Watney.
No, it wasn't that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it would be nice if I could just fall back on that, but no. It requires a little more introspection. I went too far with Jazz's flaws. She was too flawed.
Oh, interesting.
For a lot of people, it was just really hard to root for her because she was so much the agent of her own problems that, people are like, I want her to do well, but I also want to smack her. Just stop messing up your own life. So anyway,
how do you figure that out? Does somebody tell you that, or? Well,
lots and lots of reviews. I mean, I read, and the professional reviews are okay, but actually the reader reviews, just Amazon reviews and stuff like that, I can't read them all. They're
like
thousands,
focus groups. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. And so you have to read between the lines because I want to know what the actual readers think, not just what some stuck-up reviewer thinks. I want to know what the real readers think, but there's thousands of them, and the readers aren't professional reviewers, so they don't always put into words correctly what it is that they had a problem with. So you have to kind of read between the lines. A lot of I got a lot of reviews. I got really conflicting information from women, female readers. Like about half of them said, I love Jazz. She reminds me of me. She's so snarky and go get 'em. And nice, strong female character. And the other half of women were like, oh, I hated Jazz. She's clearly not a woman. She's clearly just a character, a woman written by a man, and I don't buy her as being female at all. And what I learned to do is I'm sure I still have a lot to learn about writing female characters. But what I really learned is that when they say she didn't seem realistic, what they're really saying is she is realistic and they don't like her. Like, yes,
she's not a hero.
She's not a hero. It's like, I think what it is she is realistic enough as a woman. It's just a woman you don't want to hang out with. It's just, So
I think
anyway,
if you hadn't written The Martian before Artemis, the reaction would have been very different.
Maybe.
Artemis on its own is a great book, but you created an amazing hero with Mark Watney. And so I think the expectation maybe was, now this is going to be another hero.
Yeah. So I don't know. And also I do get annoyed at things say like, this is just another female masturbation fantasy written by a man. I'm like, no. Jazz doesn't have sex at all.
There's no sex.
She doesn't do that at all.
Look, she's I'm not a woman.
She's never even in the mood. The whole book, she's got other things.
Come on, guys. Yeah. No, of course I can't any more than you can say, whether it was a well-written woman or not. But I thought it was a very, very good book, and I really hope that you will live that the Moon Colony will live on because you've given yourself an environment.
Yeah, it's my playground. I want to do stuff in it. But anyway, I was still droning on in answer to your previous question.
Please do.
So I'm still trying to get better at character depth. So the lesson I learned from Jazz was, okay, she had depth, complexity, nuance, flaws, and a character arc, but she wasn't likable. I drove a lot of readers away with her unlikability.
Yeah.
And so then I said, like, okay, this time I'm going to try some new stuff. For Ryland, I decided, number one, I'm going to stop just basing characters on myself. I'm not going to make Ryland just be a reflection of me. I'm going to make him a character who is not based on me. I'm going to make him out of a whole cloth, and I'm not going to be constrained by my own actual personality. And then number two, the flaws he has are not going to be things that drive the reader away from him. So, Ryland's a little naive, and he's kind of scared and stuff like that. And we've all felt this way. He feels overwhelmed a lot, and we've all felt that way. And so those are kind of the flaws that I tried to give him. There's some other flaws, but they're kind of spoilers. And and so and that was very difficult for me. I tried to make him it took me about 5 chapters of writing before his personality really started to gel. And then I went back and rewrote big chunks of the prior chapters so that it matched the personality that had come up. But yeah, and he has a growth arc and yada, yada, yada.
He's a much more nuanced personality than Mark Watney. Sometimes I wonder, though, maybe all people really want you to do is write these superhero. You see so many superheroes in all fiction that maybe that's people need a hero,
I don't know.
He ends up a hero. It's a wonderful, wonderful ending that just everybody. By the way, you did that with The Martian, too. This is one thing. A lot of authors are not good at endings.
I had the ending of this in mind.
You're good at endings. You're good at endings. Oh, man, are you good at endings?
Well, thank you.
Well, that's important because it's really bad if you read a whole novel and you love it all the way to the end and then you go, and I'm not going to name names, but there are some very well-known sci-fi authors who are notoriously bad at ending their books. And it just kind of takes a little bit away from it.
Yeah.
You're good at that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm not saying it's a happy ending. Please don't misunderstand. You know what? I'm done with this. All right. Spoiler time. Put up the big auga. Spoiler alert.
Here we go.
I encourage those of you who have not yet read the book to stop now. And I am absolutely sincere in this. I don't say that for everything. There's a lot of things well, frankly, when you go see a movie, it spoils the book if you haven't read the book. When you read the book, it's going to spoil the movie. So especially in a plot-driven stuff like Andy does. But in this case, I honestly want you to experience this fresh. I don't even read the Audible blurb. Just read it fresh. You don't want to know anything about this. That's how I came into it, and it really, the journey.
You went in blind.
Yeah, and the journey.
Yeah,
is
that's
so
fun.
Good. I think
that's what I was hoping for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we're in post-spoiler. You can go ahead and talk about whatever you like.
Oh, no. I have my tongue is tied. I don't know. I am so sincere in my desire not to spoil this for anybody. So stop. And if you're watching live, just go take a walk. Read a book. There's a great book, you might want it, called Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, published by Random House. It's available in bookstores. It's on Amazon. It's also an Audible book. If you have the choice and you like audiobooks, there is, in the audiobook, something that you can't get in the print. In fact, I haven't seen the print. Spoilers!
Okay. Spoiler!
This is a first contact book, which I did not expect. Mm-hmm. Because in The Martian, it's really Watney alone. It's a man in space all by himself. And I thought,
Ryland's in space, not all by himself.
I thought, here we go again. We're going to go off in space all by ourselves to save the world in this case, which is nice. And he meets an alien, first contact. And in fact, I have to commend you for this. It is the most plausible first contact I've ever experienced. The idea, the aliens will come here. It's a long way. It's not easy. We're kind of in a backwater out here in the spiral arm of the galaxy. But this one makes sense. If you're going to run into an alien, you're going to run into an alien at Tau Ceti. And I didn't think of it until it happened. And I went, of course.
Yeah. Yep. Basically, for those of you who've decided, yeah, spoiler alert. For those of you who've decided to continue listening and haven't read the book,
shame on you.
Shame on you. But basically, there is an extraterrestrial microbe, and this is all in the first chapter, but there's an extraterrestrial microbe that lives on the surface of stars. It's like algae in an ocean, but it lives on the surface of stars. It's not intelligent. It's just a single-celled organism that breeds. And it can seed itself out to other stars. To do this, it sits on the star and collects enormous amounts of energy, which it stores as mass, and then it can expend that as thrust. And all the physics works out on it. It's neat.
It's a great mystery, too, because when they first discover it, they can't figure out what's going on.
But they do know that our sun is dimming, and that will end all life on Earth if we don't find
Not a good thing. A little early, a little ahead of schedule.
And then, yeah, a little bit. And then, so then they realize that out of all the stars in our local cluster, Tau Ceti, for some reason, is the only one that's not dimming. So they realize, okay, astrophage is what they name it, astrophage.
Again,
Greek for
great
eater.
name.
Yeah, star eater, right?
Great
Although technically
name.
it's, to be fair, it's not eating the star, it's just living on it. Kind of like, algae isn't any threat to the existence of the ocean, but it lives there, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a lot like algae, actually.
It is pretty much just algae.
Yeah.
So
we're not going to tell you spoilers about the end. So
no, we won't
tell you
end,
what happens at the end. So in case you by accident hear this. Yeah.
Yeah. Our hero, Ryland Grace, ends up on a mission where they use this astrophage as fuel to send a ship all the way to Tau Ceti.
By the way, another really neat point. You had to invent the ion drive for an earlier book.
Well, I mean, for the
didn't
Martian,
invent it, but you had to upgrade it.
It already existed. Yeah,
you have to upgrade it.
Yeah.
Did you know this ahead of time that that's what astrophage was going to be?
Oh yeah. No, that was the core idea of everything. I was like, oh, okay, and it worked out really well. It was like a shower epiphany. I'm like, okay. Astrophage is the cause of the problem, and it's also kind of the solution to the problem.
Yeah.
Because it seeds itself to other stars. So it's able to store enormous amounts of energy and then use that to propel itself through space, which ultimately makes it like the perfect spacecraft fuel. So that's how they get to Tau Ceti. Well, he's by himself. And then once he gets there, he encounters an alien spacecraft because their planet has the same problem.
For the same reason.
Yeah, for the same reason. Their star is also infected with astrophage. They also notice that all the local stars are getting dim except Tau Ceti, and then they go to Tau Ceti.
In fact, it's kind of amazing there's not 1,000 other species at Tau Ceti.
Well, you gotta get there. There's no faster than light travel in this book.
That's another really interesting thing. We're going. Oh, what a revelation! When he's looking at the sun. He's looking at the sun. There's something wrong here.
Yeah,
that's great.
And he realized, he thought he assumed
sun,
that the big sun he was looking at. He assumed the big sun that he thought he could see was the sun. Then he realizes it's not our sun, and he's like, "Where the hell am I?"
Traveler! Oh my God.
Anyway, so the character, that's how we find the character of Rocky, who is also, he's the alien. Rocky is the nickname that Ryland gives him. And I think what you were happy about in terms of plausibility is I wanted to do a first contact story my way, which is where I'm like, all right, there's no reason that an alien would be comfortable in our environment. There's no reason at all. So Rocky's native environment is like 210 degrees Celsius, 29 times our atmospheric pressure of pure ammonia. That's the air that he lives in. And so if he's in our atmosphere, he'll die almost immediately. And if we're in his, we'll die almost immediately. He builds tunnels and stuff like that so that they can talk to each other with a separation, but they're never.
He's a perfect complement for Ryland Grace's skills. So Grace
Rocky
is
an engineer.
Ryan's an engineer. So it's Rocky's the engineer. So it's a perfect complement.
Well, the other thing I did that I've always wanted to do was I said, like, why do we always assume that aliens we meet would be more advanced? Rocky's people are actually less advanced. than we are. There's a few areas of technology that they're better
I
on.
love the things
like
that they're
materials, technology.
their knowledge gaps are great, and
they didn't. Yeah,
the way you do this is beautiful, and it gave you a really nice scope to make this kind of. I mean, again, I think this will be used in schools because you learn in a really realistic way a lot of concepts, including Mendelian genetics. Nicely done. Nicely done. Relativity. I mean, it's just really good. In fact, when we talked a few years ago, you said you wanted a way to explain relativity. Yeah,
and I still don't quite have that. I mean, it's a thing that happens in this book, but it's not critical to the plot. So I note it. Because
you skim over it a little bit. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, so basically,
it's not a plot point.
Yeah, Tell said he's 12 light years away from our star, right. And so to get there, he's traveling on the Hail Mary, which uses astrofacial fuel. He gets going near light speed on the way there, and so from Earth's point of view, it takes him about 13 years to get there. From the ship's point of view, from his point of view, it takes about 4 years because of time dilation. And he's unconscious the whole time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal.
One of the things you're really good at, and this is actually, I think, a hard thing to do. A lot of sci-fi, it's strained. But there's something about everything happens in this book, and this is a perfect example, The First Contact, is it clicks into place, and it's just so. It's like, of course. It's just so. And I just want to praise you.
Oh, thank you.
Because there's something about it, and I think it looks effortless, but I bet you it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, yeah. I try to make everything like logical and rational, and I want to keep the plot moving along quickly. One thing that helped a lot is like I try to avoid tropes, and among other things, these two, like Ryland and Rocky, basically trust each other right from the beginning, and they become very good friends, and because they kind of have to. Ryland at one point, we see his thought process. He's like, after he gets over the initial shock of meeting and seeing an extraterrestrial ship, he's like, well, what do I do now? And he's like, I'm going to assume they're friendly, because if they're not, I'm dead. I don't have
what choice do I have?
Myself.
Yeah.
I have no way of defending myself. So I'm going to assume they're friendly.
Yeah. You do some of the most interesting stuff, and I don't know. I think we already have some people who are rereading it. They finished it because it is a page turner. So you read it and you go, well, I can't wait till what's happening next. But then you want to go back a little bit and kind of relish it. And there's some really interesting philosophical questions that you raise. Thinking speed is a really good one, and I thought that was fascinating.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. The Rocky and Ryland, once they cobble together a language that enables them to speak, they at one point they start to speculate, how come we think at about the same rate? Like, how come you're not 1,000 times smarter than me or vice versa? And they ultimately speculate and conclude that we think at a given speed, we think at a speed that evolution gave us. And the reason we evolved to think at a certain speed is to respond to things happening in our environment fast enough to survive. And things happen in your environment more or less based on gravity. Things, in a lower gravity environment, things can't run as fast. In a higher gravity environment, they can run faster just because of contact with the ground and stuff. So since Ryland and Rocky, their two homeworlds ours is 1G, and we learned that Rocky's is a little over 2Gs, which isn't a huge difference in the grand scheme of things. Because they came from similar gravities, they have similar rates of thought. Or Isn't
that fascinating? You also talk about sound and light, and there's some
why so Rocky is blind, or rather his species doesn't have the ability to see, because they have such a thick atmosphere, sunlight doesn't reach the surface. Their biosphere is kind of like an ocean. There's photophilic life, like floating in the upper atmosphere. Then there's life in a layer down, eating that, and so on. So the food chain kind of moves vertically, similar to an ocean. And so Rocky doesn't have eyes at all, but he has excellent hearing. He has like passive sonar kind of hearing.
How hard was this book for you to write? You've done a few books now. Did this one come easily? Was it difficult?
At first, it was very difficult because I wasn't sure. I mean, I made this book out of the junkyard of my mind. These were all different ideas. I mean, I had one idea for a mass conversion spaceship fuel, another idea for a character who we didn't talk about at all, Ava Stratt.
Love her.
Yeah,
and by the way, the audiobook, Ray Porter does her justice, I think. I don't know how you heard it in your head, but boy, she was great in the audio.
Yeah, she doesn't mess around. And she was a character, I mean, she had a different name, but I took her from another story idea that I never developed. And then a first contact story I always wanted to do. And also a guy waking up aboard a ship with amnesia. So these are all unrelated ideas that I glued together. And it seems seamless, but there's a lot of spackle in the seams. So it worked out well. But at first, when I was first writing it, I'm like, I don't know if this works. We'll see. But once I got Ryland's personality down, like I said, about 5 chapters in, then I'm like, okay, I think this is working. And I knew the ending. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to get to that ending and it'll be awesome.
Is there, forgive me for not knowing, but is there science in this that is impossible or made up? Or it seems like most of it's pretty realistic.
Yes, you have to go down to the subatomic level to find the BS, but it's there.
Good place to hide it.
Yeah, it's well hidden. Basically, there's nothing in the book that is provably impossible, but there are things in the book which are probably impossible. And one of them is a quantum effect that I made up called super cross-sectionality. And the cell membrane of astrophage has a feature that makes it impossible to quantum tunnel through.
Yeah.
So it's not possible for something to be on one side, then be on the other side without interacting with the membrane. Now, a neutrino can effortlessly pass through the entire planet Earth without touching anything. Like right now, you're having about 100 trillion neutrinos passing through you every second.
But they're tiny, so they just...
Well, and they don't interact with it. I mean, they're famously hard to interact with. But an astrophage cell membrane can keep neutrinos inside. It stores them. And that's how it stores the energy that it gets.
I thought the physics of astrophage must be kind of tough to solve.
Well, there's two BSs in it. First off, the super cross-sectionality of the cell membrane that allows astrophage to keep neutrinos, right? And second off, neutrinogenesis, which is the physics and math and everything works out, but what it is two hydrogen ions, basically protons, smack into each other. And the kinetic energy of that collision, instead of just being an elastic collision, the kinetic energy becomes two neutrinos going opposite directions. So the energy and the momentum are conserved, and the energy is taken from the kinetic energy of the protons, so they'll slow down a bit. So that means that's why the critical temperature of astrophage is about 97 degrees, because if you have hydrogen gas at 97 degrees, they will be colliding with each other with the right kinetic energy to create two neutrinos. So that's all very, like, the math all works out, but there's no reason to believe that would actually happen.
Well, that's not much suspension of disbelief. I don't. That's an easy.
Well, there is something in real life called pair production, which is where you can have, like, if you have like a heavy atomic nucleus, like a uranium atom or something like that, and a photon goes by, it is possible, and it happens. It'll be like a gamma ray or something, but it can go by, and it can. That energy can become an electron and a positron going opposite directions, and the nucleus of that atom also gains a little bit of
see,
and so that balances mass and energy and everything like that. So it is possible for an energy to kind of randomly take other forms like that. So I just said, here we have, neutrinos get created under the right circumstances with this. So those are the physically highly questionable things. Also, xenonite is...
I love xenonite, but...
Xenonite is possible. The
really?
Theoretical... It is... Well, I mean, I don't know what the molecules would be, but it is within the limits of the physically possible tensile strength.
Interesting.
Like, there's a calculation, I don't understand all of it, but they said this value here is the maximum imaginable tensile strength. Like, it is not physically possible to make a material that has a higher tensile strength than this. And xenonite's tensile strength is lower.
Now, when you were writing The Martian and you were unknown, you told me at the time that, the internet answered a lot of these questions for you. Can you now just, call up, Richard Feynman, and well, you can't call him, but
I have a special phone that lets me speak to the dead.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So mostly Einstein helped me out a lot. No,
can you call Caltech and say, "Hey, I want to do this"? How?
I can, but Google's faster.
Yeah.
So the vast majority of my research is through Google. Though, fun story, as I just mentioned, I needed to learn a lot about neutrinos. For this book, for explaining how the astrophage works. And so I researched a bunch of stuff, but I couldn't find all of what I was looking for. And it just so happens that I know a guy named Dr. Charles Duba. Now, Chuck and I were high school friends.
Oh, my God.
So this is before I was famous or anything like that. He was my lab partner in physics and high school physics. So Mr. Trimmingham's physics class.
Nice.
And I went on to be me, and he went on to be Dr. Charles Duba, who was on a team that won the Nobel Prize for helping narrow down the mass of the neutrino.
Well, there you go.
So his whole life is studying neutrinos. So I gave him a call.
Chuck.
And what do you know? Chuck was able to answer my questions about neutrinos.
What a great story. And Mr. Trimmingham is, by the way, right now is smiling very broadly.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. You got one Nobel physicist and one world-famous science fiction author in the same science class. Pretty good.
We sat at the same little... these lab tables, in physics.
Did you study science? You didn't. You were a computer science guy.
Well, I mean, if computer science counts, then yes. But other than that, no.
Not physics. Yeah.
Just lower division classes.
So was this something you discovered later in life, or did you always have this fascination?
I was always interested in it. It's just when it came time to choose a career, I went with software engineering, and so that's what I focused on in my education.
Right.
And I didn't finish college either. I am a high school graduate. That's
two of us.
That's the extent of my education.
That's all you need these days.
I guess
In fact,
so.
I think you're better off. Wow. So many, John. So one question, apparently Captain Jay was going to ask you. He asked a question about Jazz's toy in Artemis, and you responded via email. I doubt you could still respond to people via email. Do you answer?
Sure, I do.
You do?
Yeah, I respond to all fan mails. I'm not such a big shot that I get more email than I can respond to. Yeah, you just keep up with it. I spend maybe 15 or 20 minutes a day responding to fan mail. Yeah, I mean, writers aren't like actors who have like millions and millions of fans thinking about them all the time. Not that many people go out of their way to email a writer. So not like a huge percentage of your readers will contact you.
Yeah.
So it's not. I still answer all fan mail.
That's really cool. We are, by the way, not flashing your email address on the screen at this moment, right?
Well, you can find my email address very easily. Just Google around.
I think that's how we got a hold of you, I think.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I post it on my website and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't have a secret email address. That's my email address.
Do you keep your website up? Because that's where The Martian was first published.
I mean, The Martian isn't there anymore. Yeah. But I do. I mean, I haven't updated it in forever, but I left it up there because I've got various short stories up there.
Yeah. Do you still write short stories?
Not very often. I mean, I do sometimes because someone will want a story for a collection. Like I recently wrote a short story called Randomize. for a short story collection called Forward.
Yeah.
So it's short stories by many different authors.
Right.
So I wrote one, Veronica Roth wrote one, Blake Crouch wrote one in there, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, and the name of the collection is called Forward.
Forward. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. And my story in it is called Randomize.
I will
so
look
that's
for it,
like one example, but I don't often write a lot of short stories now.
Have you started work on the next?
I have, but I'm not really talking about it because I'm not convinced that this will be the one that I run with.
Yeah.
I learned from Jacques, that story that I spent a year on and got 70,000 words into. For reference, The Martian's 100,000 words. And I was a year and 70,000 words into Jacques when I realized that it sucked and it was unsalvageable. And so I don't really announce what I'm working on until I'm really sure that it's going to work.
Sensible. My mother always told me, if you think somebody's a great baker, it's just because you haven't seen all the cakes left out in the rain. They're not, yeah. You only deliver the good stuff. So, but you did say...
Oh, your mom was the one who baked that MacArthur Park cake?
MacArthur's Park cake.
She left that one out in the rain. It was so sad. All the sweet green icing melting down.
You got that reference.
Oh, my God. And she'll never have that recipe again.
She'll never have that recipe again. Did you... you said parts of Jack got into Project Hail Mary. What particular parts?
There were two things in Jek that were good, and the rest of it, so it's like sorting through a big pile of manure and there's a couple of diamonds in there. One of them was in Jek, there was an alien technology called black matter that was functionally the same as astrophage. Black matter wasn't a life form, it was a technology. It would absorb any electromagnetic waves and turn it into more black matter via E=mc². And I didn't bother explaining anything deeper going on. Like I didn't bother to explain what's going on inside of black matter or how that works. And that was like kind of the seed of Hail Mary. I was like, boy, it'd be cool. Just ignore all the other stuff and just black matter would be neat. We could colonize Mars. It'd be amazing. And then I'm like, but we can't invent that. I can't write a story where someone invents that. It doesn't make any sense. It's just way too advanced. I could have it be alien technology that someone finds, but then where are the aliens? Like why, that I don't like that. And then I said, well, it takes energy and makes more of itself. That sounds kind of like life. So what if it's just a single-celled alien microbe? And then I'm like, okay, so why does it have so much energy and why can it do all this stuff? Oh, okay, it's interstellar. It travels from star to star and it even lives on the surface of stars. That's how it gets all its energy. I'm like, okay, so we find some of that and we start farming it and we make a Mars base and a Venus base. And I'm like, oh, of course, we'd have to be really careful to make sure none of that got into our sun. That'd be a disaster.
Oh,
that's the book. Forget all that other crap.
You must take really long showers.
Well, I take one every day, so how's that?
There you go.
But and then the other thing I saw, like I said, there was a character in Jek who was basically Strat. Although more magnified. The character in Jek was actually literally a psychopath. And Strat is not. No, Strat is.
She's a
no nonsense.
Good guy.
But
yeah. She she has a nice character arc. Actually, there's a lovely moment with her.
Yeah, she feels kind of bad. I mean, she's been tasked with saving the world. Literally, she's in charge of Project Hail Mary, and she has unrivaled authority. No human being in history has been as powerful as Ava Strat, and she uses this solely for good. But she's like. Her objective is clear. If she fails in what she's doing, all humanity will die. So she doesn't have a lot of time for BS or bureaucracy or anything like that, and she doesn't have any patience for it. And she would, happily throw a bunch of kittens into a furnace if it increased the odds of it surviving, of humanity surviving, and she'd sleep well that night. But she does feel a little bad for some of the things that she has to do.
Yes. Which we shall not name. But there's quite a bit of it.
But she doesn't mess around.
She's badass, yeah.
She's a character that you kind of, I think everybody fantasizes about being that person. Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if
Nothing
you could
stood in my way. Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if you really could fight City Hall?
Yeah.
Like if you could just be like, oh, that looks like bureaucratic nonsense. We're not doing it. We're doing this instead. Yeah, I know those are your procedures, but these are my procedures, and so we're doing it this way.
Well, honestly, you have a middle school science teacher who's traveling to another star to save the world, meets a spider-like alien, and the thing I found least believable in the whole story is that everybody got together in the world to save the world.
Well, I mean, they didn't have much choice.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm reading this. I'm thinking, now if we could just fix the climate.
Well, the climate isn't an instant existential threat,
True.
right? Like
True.
the climate is something that a lot of people say, like, okay, we could fix the climate if we were willing to set our technology back to the Stone Age and just stop using fossil fuels, or we could adapt to the new climate, which is caused by us using fossil fuels. And a lot of people would quietly rather say, you know what?
That's right.
If the three-anused mud sloth goes extinct and the ocean goes up by a meter, and that's all it costs us, I'm cool with it. Nobody wants to admit that in real life, but here we're talking about literal extinction, like within one generation.
It is a climate change crisis, though. It
is
one of the reasons you wrote this? I mean,
no, there's never any subtext or moral or hidden meaning. And in fact, in the book, the damage we've done to the environment turned out to be good.
Yeah. In fact,
because
yes.
it kind of bought us a little more time.
We could use some more methane right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It bought us a little bit more time to react because we had these greenhouse gases that helped Earth retain the energy it was getting from the sun. Yeah. So if you read morals into my book, then you will say, like, I guess Andy's saying climate change is good.
When Astrophage gets here, we'll be ready. I'm just saying.
We'll be ready.
We'll be ready.
So trust me, no, there's no climate message in there. There is one very sad climate scientist who's tasked with the job of like massively
destroying the Earth, basically, to save it.
Saving the Earth.
Yeah. It's and it's not a knock to say that it's incredible. It's just that in the last year we've been through, it's kind of hard to imagine all the countries of the world getting together and agreeing on anything.
I disagree because I got to disagree 100% because
this is the thing that would do it.
The countries of the world did get together and agree on things. Like pretty much every country on Earth did a lockdown.
That's true.
We were all working on ways of treating it. We were all sharing information on how to, what's the best way to try to minimize the spread of COVID. And now that we're starting to get ahead of it, the countries that have excess vaccines are just like the United States is just sending it out to everyone we can send it everyone we can send it to. It's like, okay, we've got another 60 million doses. Let's send that to India. They're having troubles. Let's help them out. So I think that COVID has shown a lot of the best of humanity.
I like that.
Also, I have my bold prediction. I believe COVID-19 will be the last pandemic in human history.
We might have learned a lesson.
Well, not so much learned a lesson. It's just that people don't understand the sheer magnitude of what the scientific community did in response to COVID-19. We didn't just come up with a new vaccine to deal with the problem. We came up with a new technology that now allows us to make a vaccine for a virus within like 2 or 3 weeks of identifying the virus. That's absurd. Normally it would take years to come up with a vaccine for a new virus. And now, thanks to mRNA technology, the next virus that causes a problem, we'll have a vaccine ready in like 3 weeks. Then we got to mass produce it and distribute it. But we actually showed that we were already pretty good at the mass production and distribution part. Like,
we scienced the crap out of it. That's what we did.
We scienced the crap out of it. And so the next major pandemic that happens, we're going to have that technology. And also, if the pandemic happens within the next 30 or 40 years, it'll be in living memory how to live with a pandemic. And people will be like, okay, I remember this. This sucks, but we know what to do.
Yeah.
And if it happens after that, after it falls out of living memory, kind of like there's no one alive from the Spanish flu, so we had to relearn what to do during a pandemic.
Right.
If it's like 100 years in the future, I honestly believe medical technology will have just, new virus, here's the cure.
I love it.
So that's my prediction. COVID-19 is the final pandemic.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
There we go.
Good job, everybody.
Call me a Pollyanna.
Good job. You're an optimist. Let's just say that. Yeah.
I like humanity. I think we do a pretty damn good job. We don't really have any oversight, yet we always seem to make the world
Somehow.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, tell me, pick a year in history and then tell me whether you'd rather live in that year or the one 100 years prior to it.
Yeah. No, that's
You're almost
true.
always going to pick the latter year.
Yeah.
2020 sucked, but I'd rather live through 2020 again than 1920. I don't know about you, but none of my friends have died of typhoid fever, and I have never, ever seen a no-colored sign in a store window
We're making a little progress.
in my whole life.
We're not perfect, but we are making progress.
Yep.
And Andy, you are an optimist.
I am.
They say a
We
pessimist.
always do the right thing. Winston Churchill said it about Americans, but I think it could be extended to all of humanity. We always do the right thing after we've exhausted every other option.
Yes, that's right. We try. We try to screw it up, but we end up doing the right thing. They say a pessimist is somebody who says the glass is half full. The optimist says the glass
Other
is
way around.
half empty. The optimist says the glass is half full, but the engineer says the glass was poorly designed. And I think that's the most important
The engineer keeps half of his water in a redundant glass.
Andy Weir, you are...
That's from Dilbert, by the way. Credit where credit's
Credit
due.
where, give it to Scott.
Yeah.
You are a gem. We hope you will
thanks.
write many, many, many more of your
plan
great
to.
novels. I love it that you're now officially, full-time novelist. It's great. And you don't miss coding at all? Do you do any little coding on
I
the
do
side?
miss coding. I really do. I miss not just the actual coding, but I actually really enjoy writing software. It was a good career for me. I mean, if I wasn't a writer, I would still be a pretty happy guy.
It's fun. I love coding. It's the same thing. It's solving problems.
Yeah, I loved coding, and I also I enjoyed the environment of my workplace. I liked being part of a team of engineers working on an app, and sometimes we have to go into crunch mode, and that's all of us together. It's almost like being war buddies.
Yeah.
I miss that environment, and I'm a writer. I sit in my office by myself. I write, but to answer your question, yes, I have done a little bit of coding. I'm not sponsored or anything, but there's an app called Tabletop Simulator, which lets you play board games remotely.
Oh,
and
neat.
so my friends and I play board game during the whole pandemic. We did remote board gaming.
What games were you playing?
Oh, I mean, lots of stuff, but lots of different board games. But so you can write mods for Tabletop Simulator that are, the board games you want to play. So there are a bunch of board games that we like to play that nobody'd written mods for. So I wrote a bunch of mods.
Nice.
I wrote a mod for a game called Team Play. I wrote one for Ticket to Ride. I wrote one for
Ticket to Ride.
Power Grid.
Fun.
I wrote a whole bunch of mods for my friends and I, and that's fun.
What language do you write though? Is that Lua or?
It's in Lua. It is in Lua. And I'd never written in Lua before, but it turned out to be so similar
Lua's
to JavaScript,
great.
I didn't have a problem.
Yeah, Lua's great. It's perfect for that kind of thing.
Yep.
Andy, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for
Thanks for
three
having me.
great books. And Project Hail Mary is fantastic. Everybody has to read it. It's
Thanks.
every moment you go is a revelation. That's what I love about it. It's just every moment.
I want to keep you up at night. I don't want you to put the book down.
You go,
You stay up all night.
Yeah.
You sleep on your own time.
Everybody must get Project Hail Mary. It's on Audible. It's from Random House. You can get it everywhere, every bookstore. Probably they have a display of hundreds of them. Do you? I guess you won't go on a book tour because of COVID.
You're looking at my book tour. This is what I've been doing, my whole book tour. And at first I thought, this is cool. I can't leave the house. They're not going to pack me full of travel and work me to death like they usually do. But this time they said, he doesn't have to travel. We can schedule like 5 events a day. They're all just like boom, boom, boom.
I'm sorry. Well, I'll let you go. You're probably exhausted. I do have to ask you one thing. This whole
Always
time
a
I've been
pleasure.
watching over your left shoulder, there's a stuffed animal.
That's a dog toy.
Okay. I just thought.
And there's
the
in
bed.
fact,
We didn't see
there's
the
a
bed
dog
or I
bed.
would have known.
Yep.
You see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a dog bed and a dog
Andy's
toys.
a master of the reveal.
Yes, there we are. There you are. Now you know the deep, dark secret. I have a dog. I also have 2 cats.
And two
the
cats.
edge and my side out the window here of my office is a catio that I built.
We've been thinking about doing that. That's a great idea. I really like that
It's great. They love it. They go out there all the time, and they won't. I live in sort of a kind of a little bit out of the way, kind of right up against the hills, and there we get coyotes and stuff.
Yeah.
And
so you don't want them out and wandering. Yeah.
I don't want the cats out on their own.
Yeah. My friend's cat just got injured by a badger of all things. I said, I thought badgers were from the English countryside. He said, no, we have them in California, and they're protected. You can't go out and kill a badger.
Well, I mean, there goes my weekend plans. Thanks.
Andy Weir, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Congratulations on your marriage and a brand new book.
Thanks.
And we really can't wait to talk to you again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for our interview with Andy Weir. I hope I didn't spoil anything for you. I hope we didn't. If you I know me, I would have watched the whole thing and gone, oh, and spoilers. So I'm sorry, I apologize, but do still read Project Hail Mary. It's fantastic. This is the first of our TWiT events since we launched Club TWiT, and the first Triangulation in some time. So I really want to thank our members at Club TWiT for making this possible. You hear that all the time, Triangulation is made possible by listeners like you. Well, in this case, it really is. If you're not yet a member of Club TWiT, I'd appreciate it if you join. $7 a month. Look, I know times are tight, and that's a lot of money, but what do you get? You get ad-free versions of all of our shows. You get our great Discord channel, which is a server. It's many channels on it. It's really a lot of fun. You get to participate in shows that we do only on Discord, like the Untitled Linux show and our Inside TWiT shows. You also get a special TWiT Plus feed of stuff that didn't make it out into any of the podcasts, unique stuff. There's more and more going to be appearing there. And you get the satisfaction of knowing that it's thanks to your support we could do things like this that are not advertiser supported. So if you're interested, man, we really appreciate it. The response has been fantastic. Just go to twit.tv/clubtwit. That's it for this TWiT event and this special Triangulation. I'm Leo Laporte. Thanks for joining me.